Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. At that moment when you've run a show for I don't know, nearly 6 years, and yet you still press the wrong button at the start of a show. So my face just looks bemused. Well, there you go. You got a little bit of insight into me not being perfect. But thank you ever so much for tuning in, and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our tactical breakdown series, our show in which we look into players that have been linked to Arsenal, break them down in an analytical and statistical way that will help of an expert, of course. And today is no different as we look into Frankfurt striker and Portuguese forward Andre Silva, who has been touted with a move to Arsenal. According to the Telegraph's Duncan Castles, Arsenal are preparing a bid of around 40 million euros, which coincides with the amount of money that he is expected to go for this summer. We'll hear some more about that in a second. But there's plenty of interest about Arsenal and strikers because it's not necessarily a position that we thought we were really going to be going for this summer, with the amount of interest in centre midfielders, attacking midfielders, right backs, and of course centre back as well, Ben White, and goalkeeper and left back backup. That striker was a little bit, I never really thought we were going to be going for one, but we are, apparently, if these reports are believed to be true, of course. And so it's important that we cover the players that we've been linked to. We've looked at Alexander Isak, we've looked at the likes of Thiago Tomas, we've looked at Yuri Alberto, and now we're looking at Andre Silva. So I'm joined today by a fantastic guest, actually, who's been on the show before, and we previewed a look into Adams from RB Leipzig, and we are joined by Manuel Veit, who is a German football expert who works for Forbes and he works for Transfermarkt, who I know a lot of you will use that website, and he's from there too. But he's given us some great insight. So let's hear what Manuel has to say.
Hi, my name is Manuel Feden. I'm the area manager for Transfermarkt North America and Bundesliga reporter for Forbes. Yeah, Andre Silva. Andre Silva, very good player. Scored 28 goals in 32 Bundesliga games last year. The best striker in German football, not named Robert Lewandowski. And yeah, I can understand that that Arsenal would be interested in him. I think a lot of clubs are interested in Andre Silva. There were strong rumors about Atletico Madrid at some point. There have been some rumors about an exit clause of around 30 million euros. That's unfortunately not correct. A fee would have to be negotiated. I think Eintracht Frankfurt have an agreement, a gentleman's agreement with Andre Silva and his agency, Gestifude, which is of course Jorge Mendes' agency, to let the striker go for around 40 million euros, which is about 5 million euros less than his current market value of 45 million euros. And it's, the numbers speak for itself when it comes to Andre Silva. He's a player who has scored a lot of goals for an Eintracht Frankfurt side that once again really surprised last year in the Bundesliga and only really missed out on the Champions League spot by the thinnest of margins. And he was a big reason for that. He produces goals against any of the top sides. Is very strong, all-around player, and physically strong. Is very, very adaptable to play various positions in a front two and a front three. And yeah, I think if Arsenal can wrap this signing up, I think he would be a tremendous transfer for them, as it would be for any club that can land him in the end of the day. And I think as I said earlier, it's a good chance just because of the way the gentleman's agreement is in place. When Eintracht Frankfurt originally acquired him in exchange for Rebic from Milan, the agency didn't really make that much money on that deal, so they have an interest in moving him on too. And then of course Eintracht Frankfurt did miss out on the Champions League, which makes it easier for some clubs to sign him. And maybe this is one of the little downsides for when it comes for Arsenal to acquire him, because they're not in the Champions League next year, right? And that's always a difficult one when you have other clubs interested who are in that category, who are playing in the Champions League. But yeah, I think he would be a fantastic player for the Premier League. The fact that he is quite tall and good in the air, but also very good with his feet, and can play various positions, make him one of the best signings you could get in terms of a striker as a number 9 this summer.
A massive thank you to Manuel for helping out today's video. Unbelievable scenery. Believe it or not, that's Manuel's back garden. That's a joke. I was sitting here in my Medway bedroom, or rather study, and looking out the window at the British grey sky, another house, and yet you can turn around and that is what Manuel gets to look at every single day. But unbelievable insight, as always. And a massive thank you to him. You can find him on Twitter at ManuelVate. I'll leave a link to that in the description. It's really interesting to hear, of course, the second best striker in the Bundesliga last season. And yeah, that does include Erling Haaland as well, who was outshone by Andre Silva in the league for Frankfurt last season, and he came good and was consistent throughout the whole campaign. And it does go to show that Frankfurt losing Ante Rebic and getting Silva in return really was a better deal in the end for them than it was for AC Milan. So that is a massive plus for them. And the fact that they didn't get Champions League football will come as a big blow, because it'll mean they'll probably lose it this summer. And it could be losing him to Arsenal. We'll wait and see if it is, but we need to first of all, of course, look into his statistics, and we're going to do that immediately. So let's have a look at how he compares to the likes of Alexander Isak against Lacazette, and of course Aubameyang as well. So kicking off with their heat map. There we go. You can see he's a very energetic player. He likes to get around the pitch in the final third. Does obviously concentrate a lot of his movement inside the box. He's not so much like Lacazette, where more of his intensity is further away from the box, but can still drop deep, can link up play, can be a passer in the final third. But as we've shown, as the heat map shows, he does prefer to do more of his work inside the penalty box. If we have a look at goals per 90 against XG, of course, you could look at raw goal stats and see how many scored, and it is a lot. But what's important is actually looking at how many goals they're scoring per 90, averaged across their league statistics and in comparison to their XG, the amount of goals they are expected to score with the goals, or rather with the shots that they are taking. And for a striker that's operating at a higher goals per 90 level than their XG, it's definitely showing them operating at a higher level than is expected. And we have that with Andre Silva. In fact, the only one on this list that doesn't is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Isak is working at 0.05 higher goals per 90 in comparison to his XG. Lacazette is working at a 0.8 and 0.08, and Andre Silva is working at a 0.07 higher, whereas Aubameyang is 0.04 below his XG right now. But he is playing in a wider position, of course, which is important to remember, and came off the back of a pretty poor season. But the fact he's operating above that, and he's got the highest amount of goals per 90 as well at 0.87 anyway, is really strong. If we go into the shots and where they're being taken from, as we talked about, he likes to do most of his work inside the box, unsurprisingly, as most of his goals actually come from inside and just outside of the 6-yard box. Typically in and around, being that poacher, getting the ball played back to him, getting on the end of crosses as well, is where he's really that much more strong. Whereas you look at someone like Alexander Isak, more of his shots are from around the box in terms of kind of a spread out kind of concentration of shots, whereas you see more of a concentration towards the 6-yard box for Andre Silva. Lacazette is a lot more spread out, and Aubameyang's are more skewed to the left-hand side because of playing on the left-hand side as well. If we look at the amount of touches they have inside the box, Andre Silva comes out on top with 4.96 in comparison to the others on this list. Loves to call for the ball, loves to be confident in the box and try and get on it as much as feasibly possible. Going to the amount of dribbles, though, and whilst he does dribble more than both Lacazette and Aubameyang, he isn't anywhere near as successful with his dribbling. Only 38% of his dribbles were successful last season in the Bundesliga, which isn't that strong. He's typically known more so for getting on the end of crosses and passes and chance creation rather than having to create chances for himself. But he can do it if necessary, but it's not as successful as what we've seen from the other players on this list. In terms of the offensive duels, he gets involved with a lot of them. He is more of a physical striker than we've seen previously, with 10.01 offensive duels, but not that successful in actually winning those offensive duels. Only 28.8% of them have been won. He is a striker that just tends to be more of the kind of, not necessarily a poacher, but someone that really does like to get on the end of a chance, end of a move, rather than trying to create for himself. However, what he is strong at is he is good in the air. 4.74 aerial duels is the highest frequency, and he comes out with the highest success rate. And it's certainly something that Arsenal have needed, someone who's different. Something's got a different variable to their game, and 39.9% of aerial duels, pretty much 40% being won, is just under that 50-50. And so being able to win nearly half of those aerial duels is getting involved in is a lot better than we've currently got at the club, and something that he will thrive with. In terms of his passing, which is important for an Arsenal player, you need your link-up play. 21 odd passes per match being played with a 77.8% passing accuracy is higher than that of Isak, but ever so slightly lower than that of Lacazette and Aubameyang. Maybe it might increase with more coaching if he was to move to Arsenal, but but we'd have to wait and see. And in terms of passes into the box, which is the final statistic that we're going to look at, 1.15 is the lowest on our list. He isn't tending to be a creator, but when he does, he is fairly accurate there with a 70.3% passing accuracy for that specific area of his game. That is a really important statistic when you're looking at someone from an Arsenal perspective and knowing that they can link up that play. But also we need to have a look at his injury record, of course, because if there's one thing that Arsenal fans get very petrified is actually probably the right word. I don't think I'm being particularly hyperbolic by using a word like petrified to describe how we feel about players and their injuries. And in regards to how injured he has been in 2021, he only missed 2 matches. One was for a back issue and the other was a muscular problem, one of those games each. In 2019-20, he missed 5 games because of an Achilles tendon problem. That was more at the start of the season, between October and November. In 2018-19, he only missed 4 games for Sevilla, one with a patella issue, so a small knee problem, and 3 matches for a hamstring issue. In 16-17, he missed 2 games for Porto, and in 15-16, he missed 3 games for a groin injury. So you're missing like 1, 2, 3 odd games. There's no really lengthy period that he's been out for. I wouldn't describe him as an injury-prone player, just a player that suffers with the odd injury like any player does. So that's also another positive thing to look at. It's really important, of course, that we keep focused on that area of the pitch. And I know that a lot of you have really enjoyed watching Alexander Isak at the Euros, but you have to put into context that that is a small microcosm of what we've seen from a striker. And it is important to think about that there is more than just that. I mean, easily Andre Silva has been the second best striker in the Bundesliga last season behind Robert Lewandowski. Has Alexander Isak been the second best or near to the top of the strikers in La Liga? Not in comparison, but he's still been very, very good for Real Sociedad and certainly been part of their rise up the table in towards a European place last season. If you were to choose between the two, if you're saying you can get me a 25-year-old Andre Silva for 36 odd million quid, or an Alexander Isak, a 21-year-old striker that's still up and coming and developing for 60 million euros, I do lean towards Andre Silva. I think he's of a really good age. I think he's more well-traveled and experienced. He's played in Spain, Italy, now Germany, Portugal, and he is sort of well-traveled in that sense and has got a lot of experience playing across different leagues. And I feel that he would be able to translate that across better than maybe Alexander Isak has. If you were telling me that we were getting Isak, I would also be absolutely thrilled. So they're 2 decent, well, more than decent strikers that we've been linked to. But I'm interested to see what you guys feel in our chat box. Let's see what you guys are seeing in the chat box this evening. Matt Thornton says, are we going to be looming 440 crosses into the game again? I mean, I don't think crossing is going to be a huge part of Arteta's game, but it is certainly a portion. We do cross the ball now and again. We have fullbacks, especially in Tierney, that likes to put a cross into the box. So having a striker that's able to use them would be really good. And also the fact that just having that option, say he doesn't even start the game, if he comes off the bench, we've got that kind of plan B scenario. And I don't think that he is a plan B striker by any means. But say that we do go with something different. Say we give Balogun a chance. Say we give Martinelli a run, or Aubameyang plays through the middle. You've still got him there. So that's really important. Still says, Tom, do you think Arteta will rest Saka a bit this season, considering his loaded schedule? I don't know. Maybe we'll use this new striker to play in that position and Aubameyang playing off him in the left wing role, with Saka getting more opportunities to rest without any European football. But arguably without European football, is he going to rest as many players as he has to, because we won't need to necessarily rest players as much? Kieran Keogh says Andre Silva every day fits our style of play perfectly. Wesley says, rarely I disagree with you, Tom, but Isak 100%, and Wes, that's absolutely fine. That's what we're here to do, debate, have different opinions. But I'd love to know why you'd rather have Isak. Let me know, Wes, in the chat. Vinny says Andre Silva and Willock in the team would make us lethal in the air from crosses. We have found that Willock, of course, has done really well at getting into the box for Newcastle, getting on the end of those crosses. He's not a creator, is Willock. He's someone who likes to drive towards and try and get chances to shoot on goal. And maybe those two together would perform a little bit of a tasty, threatening partnership were we to start putting more into the box. Yusuf says, Ben might go to Arsenal. I don't know, Yusuf. We'll have to wait and see. AB says, won't we only be getting him if both Aubameyang and Lacazette leave? Don't think he wants to be a second striker behind Alba at Arsenal. I think it would take Lacazette to move on. I don't think we're going to be bringing in a striker until at least one of those two does move on. And apparently that is part of the whole deal, is that Arsenal are going to look to move on Lacazette, probably get around 20-ish million pounds for Lacazette, and then that takes what? Then you're costing you 16 odd million to bring in Andre Silva. So it could work out really importantly for Arsenal in the end of the day. Josh Hunter says, Silva all day. He outscored Erling Haaland last season. Karthik says, what's your preference choice at right back? A Baku, a Mazraoui, a Celik? It's an Aaron's, mate. Aaron's. That's my choice. Let's go to Carl, who says Silva would give us nice plan B. All of our current strikers are very similar. Again, he's a plan B that is a plan A, if that makes sense. Gives us that aerial option, but I think is well good enough anyway to start for the team already. Let's scroll up a little bit more and get some of the other questions. The 25k looks really good under TGT. Thanks, Noah. Much appreciate that. We did hit 24,000 subscribers. So if you are new and you'd like to join the TGT game, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join up as a member to help support the channel, and of course join our Discord server too. JD says Silva looks an aerial threat. Finally, someone who can finish off the high crosses that our players keep spamming into the box. Vinny says, Tom, what do you think of the ITK? He reported today that Silva was seen to have lunch with Luigi Gaspar this afternoon. Vinny has taken on the role of our resident fake ITK in our Discord server. So if you want to find out more about what he's been reporting, then make sure you give it a look. Ansgar says, we have Laka, who was one of the best strikers in the Premier League last season based on his performance per 90, and I wouldn't back these guys to be better. Get Grealish. Well, it's interesting, Ansgar, because if Lacazette, in your mind, was one of our best strikers in the Premier League and Andre Silva is outstripping him in all of his statistics, then that maybe tells you that getting him in would be an even better upgrade for Arsenal. Karthik says that Lyon and Monaco are interested in Lacazette. Where do you value him? I'm still yet to see official credible sources saying that is the case. I did listen to Duncan Castle's podcast and he didn't mention anything about Monaco or Lyon, so I am waiting to see some credible sources on that. But if you've got some, send me a DM over at the Gooner Talk TV and I'll check them out for you. Dave Lennon says Tierney would love having Silva in the box. Matt Thornton says, would we play to Silva's strengths? I think we would. I think we've got players like Tierney that we just mentioned that do put those crosses into the box. So yes, I certainly think that we would be playing to his strengths. Kieran says Silva fits our current style of play perfectly. He would be a top signing. And that is where we're going to finish off today's show. Please make sure you drop a like on today's video if you have enjoyed it. We've done quite a couple. We've done a few today now. That's our third show of the day. We did a one talking about Aaron Sanchez earlier on. Make sure you check that one out. It's a really good insight into hearing what Arsenal have done with the Peruvian 18-year-old and the interest that we've got in the player. And this morning, of course, we covered all the latest Arsenal transfer news in our 8 a.m. show, which will, of course, happen tomorrow morning as well at 8 a.m. to give you guys all the latest Arsenal transfer information. And tomorrow will be episode 50 of the 8 a.m. transfer shows. 50 shows, 50 days in a row without fail. Unbelievable stuff. I'm mad. We'll see you again tomorrow morning for the 8 a.m. show. It's been a pleasure to speak to you guys as always. And as always, up the Arsenal.